here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez with a national broadcast exclusive.
Yes, we turn now to longtime civil rights lawyer Lynne Stewart's release from prison after serving almost 4 years of a 10-year sentence. Stewart, 74 years old and dying from late-stage breast cancer. Federal Judge John Codall granted her compassionate release on New Year's Eve, and she returned home to New York on New Year's Day. Codall wrote that Stewart's terminal medical condition and very limited life expectancy constitute extraordinary and compelling reasons that warrant the requested reduction of her sentence.
Viewed by many as a political prisoner, Lynne Stewart was jailed for distributing press releases on behalf of her client, Omar Abdel-Rahman, an Egyptian cleric known as the Blind Sheikh, who was convicted of conspiring to blow up the UN and other landmarks in New York City. We'll talk more about her case with her lawyer, Bob Boyle. But first, Democracy Now! Was at the airport on Wednesday when Lynne Stewart arrived in New York, where she was met by her family and friends. She flew back with her husband, Ralph Pointer, who welcomed her the day before in Fort Worth, Texas, after she was released from the Fort Carswell Prison Medical Center. We're standing at the American Airlines arrival gate here at LaGuardia Airport. I'm Amy Goodman with Democracy Now!'s Renee Feltz. Lynne Stewart has just landed. She and her husband, Ralph Pointer, flying in from Dallas, Fort Worth. She has been freed after 4 years in prison. The crowd is only growing, and security here is warning people to step aside to get out of the exit spaces.
You cannot block this area. You must stand on this side here, or you must go downstairs.
Her family is here, her daughter, grandchildren with flowers. We'll talk to some of them right now. Tell me your name, how old you are. What are you doing at LaGuardia Airport on New Year's Day?
I'm coming to see my grandma.
What's your name?
Leola Brown.
And how old are you?
9 3/4.
Who is your grandma?
Lynne Stewart.
And what do you have in your hands?
What?
What do you have in your hands?
Flowers.
What are you going to do with them?
Give them to her.
Did you expect this was going to be happening?
Yeah.
Did it surprise you?
Yeah.
And who else do we have here today? You guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Dante, and I'm here because my grandpa just came out of jail.
How do you feel?
Great.
Are you excited?
Yes.
This is Ellen Kirschbaum. I'm a friend. I started at the BAI program, and 4 years ago we started sending cards to Lynne because Lynne was part of our cohort. She was actually a board member. She was elected by the people, and so she was part of these committees that we were on. Mimi was there, Serene was there, and so we've been sending cards. Whenever we get together, we fill up the cards and send them to her, so she's always in the room with us.
I see you've brought some of those cards today.
No, I brought the last one. This is the final one in the Ark, and this is the "We welcome you home, we love you" card.
Can you tell me your name and your feelings right now?
I'm Zenobia Brown, and I am walking on clouds and air. We are so excited, one, for humanity, that the right thing has finally been done, and of course for our selfish selves, that we're going to have our dear, dear mother and grandmother and friend and comrade back, you know, from really the clutches of death. So we're just so happy.
We recently had you on Democracy Now! You're a doctor. You were talking about how you were hoping you could help Lynne when she came home, but did you expect it would be today, New Year's Day?
I didn't expect it to be today, but I knew it would be someday. Absolutely. Absolutely knew it had to happen.
How are you preparing for her homecoming, as she is very ill?
Well, as a family, we're pulling together to make sure she has everything to be comfortable at home, but also arranging for her to be seen at Kettering as soon as possible so she can continue with her chemotherapy.
And who's this?
This is her granddaughter.
I'm Serafina Brown.
And how old are you, sir?
13.
And what are you holding?
Flowers.
For
my grandma.
Did you expect this day would come?
I was hoping it would come soon, and it's a surprise that it happened today.
Here comes Lynne Stewart. She is getting out of her wheelchair.
come?
Well, somehow or other, yes, but not as wonderful as it has come.
And how are you?
Suddenly, it's like bursting on me, you know? I mean, yesterday at this time, I was deep in the dungeons, and here I am in my beloved New York. It's just wonderful. I can't tell you. Oh, give me those flowers, Peyton.
Ralph, how are you feeling today?
Better than I felt in 4 years, I can tell you that.
When did you get the news?
While I was waiting at the car rental, they said, don't go to the hotel, go to the prison. They're waiting for you. Get Lynne out.
Yesterday in 2013, and where are you today in 2014?
I was buried deep in the bowels of Carswell Federal Medical Center, and I used the term loosely.
Watch your step here. Watch your step.
Be careful.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And when did you get the news?
I got you.
Right around this time, 7:30. Yep.
Okay.
And couldn't believe it. Thought they were going to stonewall forever. Couldn't believe it.
How are you feeling?
Euphoric, too big a word, but just full of joy and gratitude, and so happy to be home. And
all right.
My oldest grandchild, one of my younger ones.
What do you want to do when you first go home to your son's house?
Sit. I'm good, but I'm not great, you know. I can manage, but I get very, very tired. So,
were you surprised by the decision for compassionate release on New Year's Eve?
Yes. In a word, Ralph never gave up hope. Ralph was fighting down to the final moments, but me, I was very discouraged. And I figured the strategy was to just keep me in there until I was closer and closer and closer, and then let me come home. And when that didn't happen, now I'm home. I'm still pretty much with it, I hope. And here I am with these wonderful children and grandchildren, and I look forward to beating the odds now. I look forward
Well, you've
to...
done it so far.
We're trying, yes, we're trying.
Can you tell us the moment that they told you? Can you share that with us?
Well, I was called down for a phone call with my lawyers, and my Jill Scheller was calling me from France, and she had talked to the U.S. attorney, who said, well, the papers are on their way to the judge right now. And so then I had a moment, and I said, well, the judge sometimes, the judge did what he said he'd do. He said that he would take the papers and he would look upon them favorably. And by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he had signed off on time served.
And who told you?
Who told me? Well, varieties of prison officials who kept kind of dragging. But the funny part was, they literally threw me out of the prison by the time... By the time we got all the words, they said, I said, maybe I ought to stay another day, because I said, there's so much mixed up here, and I have to get all these papers. And the warden looks at me and says, no, you're going today. We're going today.
And so what did it feel like to leave the actual prison and the military base?
And without shackles, and without a belly chain, and without cuffs on? Felt pretty good, and it was like...
Then you knew it was real.
It was real.
And what did your sisters, who you've been there with and suffered through and helped, what did they all think? And what did they say? What about that experience?
They say, we know you won't forget us. And I don't forget them. That's the hardest part, to leave them behind in that parallel universe, and know that they're doing these very, very 20, 30-year sentences. it's just heartrending. But I won't forget them, and that's where I'm headed. I'm going to work for women's prisoners and for political prisoners. That's what I'm going to do.
You got out of your wheelchair as you were coming through the gate to greet everyone. Why?
My doctor said, I should use the wheelchair for any distance because I get very, very tired. But I said I would walk out of jail one day. I was not going to be wheeled out. I was not going to be dragged out. I do have a walker over here. So, yes.
Zenobia, how are you feeling right now with your mom right next to you?
Just amazed and so happy, my dear, dear mother.
To have one of your doctors be your own daughter?
Pretty good. It's I say it is really the gold card because it is so nice to be able to pick up a phone and say, well, I had chemo and I was like manicky, and I said, what the heck is the matter with me? I can't stop talking. She says, I think they put some steroid in that particular chemo you had. And so I had the answer. I didn't have to go home and think about what was I acting like.
You're very well taken care of. Your son a lawyer and your daughter a doctor.
And another daughter a lawyer. She's here too.
Ralph, Lynne said that you always believed she would get out, but that she didn't have the same faith.
Well, I tell you, the alternative of not getting her out was totally unacceptable. And this is why we all struggled so hard. And each time we got a no, we, as a group, redoubled our efforts, and we the people got her out.
Lynne, how did you end up in a Texas prison when your family is clearly here in New York?
Well, the judge recommended Danbury, but I have a number of chronic illnesses. I'm diabetic, blood pressure. It's the only medical facility for women in the federal prison system. And let me tell you, if that's the only one, it ain't much.
Was Fia Siddiqui in the prison?
It's a separate part. They have an administrative unit, and Marie Mason is also in that. She's a green activist. She's also in that part of the what they call the admin building.
Do you have a message for lawyers in the country today?
Do better. Do better than you've been doing, because let me tell you, I talked to an awful lot of women in that place, and the lawyering is not at a high level, I'm sorry to say.
How many women were there?
There are about 2,500.
Have any thoughts of continuing to practice?
Well, I'm disbarred, and my legal Beagle team has said it's not going to be easy to get you back in. I really don't. I got to beat this other thing first.
The cancer.
Yeah, the cancer. My chemo brain and all the other stuff.
The letter that you wrote talking about prison being a loveless place, why you wanted to leave, your personal appeal to the judge.
Right. Well, we felt that we should do a personal appeal at that point. That we were doing sort of an end around because we knew we had to have BOP make the actual application. But we feel, well, maybe if I write a letter and I put down, just how terrible a place it is, that might move him. I don't know that it moved him, but I tell you, he got the application at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon it was signed and back at the prison. So I have to say, there was something going on there.
You wrote, I want to be where all is familiar.
Yes.
And where is that?
Right here. Right here.
Do you have a message for aging and sick prisoners?
They just have to hang in there and fight for every inch and never give in and never say, never say die. It's very easy to give up in prison and just become an invalid. But we want people not to give up and to fight them and make them do it right, just like they would do, I hope, for me at Sloan Kettering, because it's so important. So important.
How does it feel to be picking up Lynne?
Fabulous. Overjoyed.
Say your name.
Overjoyed. I'm Brenna. I'm her oldest daughter.
You're the lawyer.
I'm the lawyer. One of them. One of them.
Did you think this day would be happening?
I did not think it would be happening.
Hey, Ralph, you're wearing a Mumia Abu Jamal pin.
Yes, I am. I wear it everywhere because we must always struggle for all of our political prisoners. Not only Lynne, as Lynne has instructed us over and over and over.
Lynne, we love you, Lynne.
That ends our report. I'm Amy Goodman with Renee Feltz at the American Airlines terminal. Lynne Stewart is free. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. You were just listening to Ralph Pointer, Lynne Stewart's husband, and Lynne herself as she arrived on New Year's Day, 2014, 4 years after she was imprisoned. I'm here with Juan Gonzalez and Bob Boyle, who was also at the airport, who played a key role in winning her compassionate release from federal prison. This was not expected, New Year's Eve, for this to happen. Talk about how it took place. We only have a few minutes. The word you got on New Year's Eve.
Well, first of all, the application for compassionate release was approved by the warden of the prison way back around Labor Day. And so it was since Labor Day that we've been waiting for the central office of the BOP and the U.S. Attorney's Office to weigh in, of the Bureau of Prisons. And it was on New Year's Eve that both Jill Shello and I received word that the U.S. Attorney's Office would not be opposing the request, and in fact had written papers to the judge requesting that she be resentenced to time served. Ordinarily, a person knows well in advance the day they're going to be released from prison, and the family and the lawyers know. So this all happened at once. As Lynne said in the report, the judge got the papers at about 10 o'clock. They were signed by about 2, and the prison did make sure that everything was processed, so she was released on New Year's Eve. And as Lynne said, it was almost a struggle to get her out of the door because she didn't know where she was going to go, where her Medicare, all of these things that really, when people get out of prison, they have to deal with, the basics of life. And so it was a unique situation, but we're thrilled that it happened so quickly.
And the impact of her being in prison for so long now on lawyers across the country, especially in political cases, what's your sense of what the message that has gone out to lawyers around the country?
Well, I mean, I like to think that the message is that we have to keep fighting as hard as we always have. In political cases and on these issues. Whenever we take on controversial cases, we're targets on a variety of different levels. And what we have to do as attorneys is expect that. Expect that when we do controversial matters and represent individuals who the government thinks of as pariahs, that we have to be, of course, aware that we're being watched, but fight as much as we always have.
And it's very interesting, Bob. You worked with Lynne Stewart. You represented cases with her, and then you become her lawyer. But can you explain how it is that she was convicted? Explain what she was charged with.
Okay, it's a long story, but just very briefly. She was charged with and convicted of material support to a terrorist organization. Very scary characterization. However, what they said she did was to speak to a Reuters reporter and to convey the words or the ideas of her client, Dr. Omar Rahman, to the press, his position on what was going on in Egypt at that time. The government's theory was that by providing his thoughts and ideas, she was assisting a terrorist organization in Egypt by simply doing that. And that was essentially the basis of her conviction.
And she was violating, they said, the SAMs. Explain what they were.
This special administrative measures which prohibited her from disclosing any of his words to the media or reading to anyone.
Now, this is a key point, and we only have a minute. In fact, the prison had dealt with this. This is before 2011.
Yes, this was
2001. The attacks.
The speaking to the Reuters reporter was in the year 2000. Lynne was, the prison found out about it. Lynne was disciplined administratively. She was kept from visiting the sheikh for a period of time. They then let her back in. to the prison. It was only then a few years later, in a big indictment announced by then Attorney General Ashcroft, that she was charged with material support.
And Lynne Stewart is now free.
And Lynne Stewart is now free. And we should all, as Ralph said, savor this victory that was fought for by all of us.
Only released after the doctor said she has less than 18 months to live.
Which will take on that fight and make sure it's longer.
Bob Boyle, thanks so much for being with us, one of Lynne Stewart's attorneys. That does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Renee Feltz, Armanta, Nermin Sheikh, Steve Martinez, Sam Alcoff, Hani Masood, Ravi Karen, Dina Guzder, Amy Littlefield, Cassandra Lazare, Messiah Rhodes, Tarina Nadura, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, engineers. Special thanks to Renee Feltz and to Hani Masood and to Becca Staley, Julie Crosby, Hugh Grant, Jessica Lee, John Wallach, and Vesta Godars, and to our camera crew, John Randolph, Karen Kirk Meadows, Carla De Jesus. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Happy New Year. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily, independent, global grassroots news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org today. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.